Okay. Within the next session, I simply want to talk to you a little bit in a more practice way about things like character sets, missing character sets, changing character sets, and replacing informations inside a database. For example, when you have created a database with a specific owner, most of you will definitely have used the SYSDBA as the owner of the database. And if you want to change it afterwards, there are some special ways to do so, which are really easy when you know how to do that. But if you do not know how to do that, it might be not so easy. And it's also one of the facts that a lot of people still working with character set none, because they think that character set is a bad thing. I'd never use that. So I will still ignore it in the last days until I work on my machine. This presentation will be no real presentation. It will be a simple presentation where I show you some databases. I create the databases immediately and show you what happens when you do the following things regarding a database. For example, first I will simply start with the database which is created here on a local instance of Firebird. And the local instance is on the port number 13050. And I want to create the database dtmp db1.fdb. I use a client library file, whatever the client library file, wherever it is. I recommend to use it as fbclient.dll. Otherwise, you might have problems with a client library file that is somewhere installed from an interbase server or anything else that you might find on your machine. I work with SYSDBA. I do the good old master keyword. I use the character set none for the first database. I want to first convert the database from character set none to character set ISO. And afterwards, I want to convert the database from character set ISO to character set UTF8. So you will see that it's really easy to do this if you know how to do this. This part is new in Firebird 2.5. You can already do a collation, while a default collation inside the database, so you can not only create a default character set, this one is only the default character set, you can also use a default collation since Firebird 2.5. I register the database and I simply give you a small DDL to show you what a character set means. Create table test ID big int not null primary key and a text column which is a varchar 20, for example. So it's a really simple database, and I want to simply show you what happens inside. For example, I enter some data and I enter some data, for example, with special signs from Germany, AD, AE, AF, a large A, B, large B, and what else? For example, also one more AA at the end. And in general, the character set none makes it also possible to store special data inside your database. It's not a big problem. But the character set itself is in a lot of places really useful. For example, if I say select star from test, I get all the data. But if I use an order by txt, I get a very strange result. In general, there are ISO rules where the characters should be, and they should definitely not be at the end. The special signs are only with the 2 points over it, and in Germany we have the special signs not so rare, so sometimes really often. In other countries, a lot of countries in Scandinavia, I know from a lot of people who have almost not a single word without some special characters on top of it. So it's not a good idea to have a database working with a character set none. For example, if you are searching for people in a phone book order, it's not nice when the people with a special character come always at the end. So you have different ways to change it. One of the things would be also really easy. You can create a database table inside this table with a different character set. What we have created while we have ISO 8859_1, when we have created the database, was simply that we have created a database with a default character set, but you are free to use any character set for any column inside the database that you want. But what happens if I'm using only this part? Insert into test2, select star from test. Select star from test2, order by txt. The character set itself is a representation of a binary coding of the signs that you have stored inside the database. When you want to have a order by in a correct way, you can add the collation here. For example, for Germany, we have the possibility to have the collate DE_DE, and now we have the way that a phone book would show the data. But when you simply have created the table based on a character set, and you create, for example, an index on this table, on this column. So we're using the column text, creating a simple index on it. And we are doing the select. The Firebird server itself uses the index, but the main problem is that the result is wrong. If you are using the collation, collate DE_DE, we get the right order, but we get not an index. So this would be the way that we can create a table test tree, where we not only say the character set, but we also say collate DE_DE. And when we have the proper character set definition and the proper collation for the column, and we have a index on this column, we have the possibility to say insert into test tree, select star from test2, from all records were inserted, select star from test tree, order by txt, order by txt, test tree should be written in this way. And we are working on such a table with a simple order by. It's simply for displaying the data. but the possibility to see, for example, data from other areas where the ISO character set is not enough. You can, for example, use, where do I have it here? I have it. You can use, for example, Firebird not only for having data from ISO character set, but this, I do not remember exactly what this kind of data here is. I think it's somewhere from Indonesia or somewhere in this area. And this is, for example, one of the ways where you have to think about when you have to internationalize your applications. So what does it mean for my database definition? I have here created a database with a specific table based on a column, ISO character set, DE. So, for example, if I have an application that runs in several countries on the world, it would be not a good idea to create a database for each country of the world. So it's sometimes much easier to create all the objects on the fly. But I think a lot of people who are doing software development and distributing their application already know this, that it's much easier to distribute only the commands how to create a new database and not a really database. But what could happen if we want to have this definition to be the default? We can create a second database with the same base data. And when I create the second database, DB2, I do not want to have this unregistered database, create database. Okay, back on the same instance. dtmp db2.fdb fbclient.dll SYSDBA master key. I can set up, for example, a default character set, and I can set up this to be the default. And when I'm now working on this database and I create a table, create table, test, ID, big end, not null, primary key, txt varchar 20. I commit my work and I have a look at the definition of the table. It is already created with the default character set. So the meaning of the default character set and the default collation is simply when you do not override it, it uses this character set definition. So if you, for example, create a database from a script and the database body itself is created with a default character set and the default collation only starting with Firebird 2.5, and the database objects are created from a script without direct definitions of the character set that should be used, it will use the default character set and the default collation for all columns that are in use in that moment. This is one of the ways to have, for example, a database almost easily to be converted from an almost empty database, for example, to a database for France, to a database for Sweden, to a database for Germany, and so on, because all these have different character set implementations. And when you want to have a look at the character sets, you can, for example, simply have a look at the database itself when you open the system tables. And inside the database, you always find very nice informations. For example, the character sets table. Here are all the possible character sets that you can use in the database. And for example, if we have the 8859_1, which default collate name is DE_DE, it has the character set ID 21, but in the RDB $collations table, we have the possible collations for this character set. And when we simply order by the character set ID, go to 21, we see that we have, for example, here Portuguese Brazil, Espanol case insensitive, French case insensitive, Finland, France, Canada, Germany, Iceland, Italy, Norway, Espanol, Sweden, English UK, English US, and so on. So you have the possibility to use these specific collations already right after within the process of creating your database, and you have the possibility that you nowhere have to redefine any collation afterwards because it's taken automatically. And this information, this kind of character sets are defined, and I do not know. I think there are some IBM definitions or IBM documents where you can read, for example, which character has which byte code. I found some document in the past, definitely based on that. But sometimes, if you have a look at a database that should be, for example, converted from ISO, like this one, to a UTF8 database. How to do that? In general, I show it here in this place with tools, with a tool like IB Expert. You can use any other tool for this, but in general, it's really easy to do so if you know how it works. I use a functionality here from IB Expert to do a extract metadata.
Please put in some data.
There is some data. Not? No, I will put some data inside. Good point. How to put data from this database into another database. Also not a big deal when you have IB Expert. Insert into brackets and take the alias name from here. Yeah. Okay, go away. I want to have this. Not tried it. Dot test. Select star from test. This is an extension that is available in all IB Expert SQL editors. You can simply add the alias name under which the database is registered in IB Expert, and you simply can use this as a target. If it does not exist, it will be created automatically. So now we have two tables inside. So now we have data. It makes it much more interesting when I convert this database from ISO to UTF-8.
Without character set, you have take none. Okay.
They are default. In the database too, they are default, so I do not need to create them. So what I do now in the next step is simply doing an extract of the metadata of the database, even that we have the possibility to not only extract the metadata, but also the data here. TMP, DB2. I use the separate files option. We have some other options to do so. And I say extract all. I take both tables. And I take also the data from both tables. And I have several options that I can add here, for example. I can also transfer blobs in this way, but we currently have no blobs inside. I can demonstrate this later on. And I also have the possibility to use the IBA block scripting language. This can be, for example, use this code to automate the same operation again. So, for example, if you want to convert a database from your customer, it's not a good idea to install him IB Expert and say, okay, now you have to use the following menu item and please do an extract metadata, override your existing database, and hopefully you will have a working database afterwards. So we have a scripting language inside IB Expert which does almost all the functionality that you have anywhere in IB Expert, and you can define a operation like extract metadata, which does exactly the same operation again. I create this part, and now the database was created. And when I have a look at this folder, DB2, it has created some files which are currently really easy to understand. Just to run me all. IB script is a command line version in IB Expert which can be used to recreate the database. So we have also a DLL version inside IB Expert which executes the following SQL file. And in this SQL file it simply says, okay, first start with IB start underscore SQL, then take the two table data, and after that take the IB $finish SQL. IB $start SQL is automatically created with basic information that are needed for the database operation. And here, for example, I can see directly that it tries to create a new database. And when I want to convert the database from ISO, for example, to UTF8, I will not create a new database. I will simply add a new command afterwards that I connect to an existing database. It creates both tables, but here, for example, you see that the primary key is not already created. And if you have a look at this table, we have here, for example, a simple insert statement. And we have a kind of a macro that is available in IB Expert. This simply means that do the same insert again with other values. Because in most cases, when I'm creating a script, the insert statement with 200 columns is extremely long, and there are only a few columns of data. So this makes the scripts a little bit smaller. And this is for table 2, which is almost the same. And after that, we start IB $finish, and IB $finish simply does some more constraints and so on. This database is extremely easy to be converted in this way, but we can also use this database, as you have seen already, with the 2,700 procedures, 5,000 triggers. It still works with the same operations, but it's much more complex. Okay, now I do the following thing. I load my script, TMP, DB2. I take my starting script, and the create database is now not made with default character set ISO, but with, for example, UTF8. And the next thing I want to have, I call it DB3, is simply that I do not create the database. I simply connect to the same database with simply dropping the alias name here to the script name, and I take a connect statement. And within this script now, it switches back to the ISO character set, directory, client lib, and it connects to this database. But the connection is done with an ISO character set. So you have a UTF-8 database, but your connection is created with the ISO data set. This is one of the really interesting things, that the Firebird server itself converts the data to the target database character set. So when I do this, I simply store my script. I open the script executive, I open run me all, and I run it. And as you see, everything was done properly. So what happened now? I register the new database, DB3. The new database is UTF8. So I should use the character set UTF8 also for this. And when I open it, and when I have a look at the test table, we see some data which look very similar to the data that we already had in the past.
But we have a mistake. We have not changed the column. In the column we have either. Because you're always changing the grade statement, but not the grade table statement.
Yes, I forgot to do so. When I have extracted the oh no, this was definitely not the thing I wanted to start. Here I have the character set.
We can add an option to not create it.
Yeah, it would be easy also in the option is already there. So this is everything I need, and now I will delete my database, db3. I will reload it and still executed successfully. I open the table UTF8 and still valid signs. And when I, for example, we have no hex viewer for data inside the database, which is based on simple varchar columns. But I simply do the following thing: create table test tree ID big int not null primary key txt blob subtype text. And when I do a insert into test tree, select star from test, I can simply add the data into test tree. And since we have in test tree the blob column, we can have a look at the one of the tools inside IB Expert, the blob viewer. And inside the blob viewer, we have the possibility to have a look at the data as text or in hex mode. So, for example, this is a coding of the large A special sign. This is a binary coding, and especially when you are working on a specific language where you are not so easy able to read this language, for example, something like the Indonesian text or whatever it is here, it is sometimes easier to find out if the thing that you display on the screen is coded correctly and looks like the original sign, other than simply trying to find out what this here means. So, for example, if you see here the writing of all the signs, it's not so easy to read it from my perspective. So what were the simple steps? Creating a kind of a dump from your original database. The original database itself can be also using a kind of a dump for blobs. I will add, for example, a table with a blob column here, simply to show you how this will work. I say new column, and I say, okay, pick or whatever, and I say raw data type blob, subtype binary, and we can, for example, get here some data from wherever. I can simply add, for example, the script here and another part here, so on. Yeah, wrong button. And what happens when I use the functionality from IB Expert to dump the data, the extract metadata functionality, it also supports blob data. See TMP, DB, what is it? DB1. Extract all tables. And I have here this one. This is the button, always include character set for domains, field, and parameters. If I do not use it, it will not get shown in the script. And what I create here is really simple. You are able to have a data for the test table with an added lob table. This is created by the IB Expert tools. Yes?
What's happened if you create explicitly a character set and you that out?
If it's not the default character set, it will be written. So
You will check the domain and everything.
yeah. So, for example, in this case, when I use the run me all, it's the same as we had a few minutes ago. But in this case, for example, we have some data that is required from added to be from blobs, and here we have the insert statement, insert into text, values, whatever, and we have a simple way to define the position inside the blob, which is simply set here with the additional information set blob file. Go to this blob file and go to the position 0 for the length 2b, and put all the binary data from there into this column. And here we start with the next column from 2b for the length of f9. It should be added for the next blob entry. We have a lot of customers who are already using this with a lot of large blob operations. They are. One customer told me it was also a really nice idea. He's doing a backup inside a Firebird database. He's using a functionality that we have created, which is a EBE block command, IBC get files. When you are a Delphi programmer, you know perhaps the get files functionality. And he's simply using the get files on a network drive and get the file list, the file names from all files on this network drive with all subdirectory. And for each file that he's never seen before, he creates a checksum, and he puts the blob data from this file and the checksum into the Firebird database. And if he finds some file with the same name, with the same checksum, he simply deletes the original file in the network and replaces it by a logical link. So it was a really funny idea that he had, because he said there was one file which was almost 1,000 times somewhere on the network distributed, and nobody was interested in having this file exactly over the places. But you can buy as many hard disks as you want. The people will always find things that they can copy there, and they will get smaller and smaller and smaller. And this functionality is really simple to be used. For example, you can simply get some data, for example, blob data or whatever you want. You can simply take this over this functionality and create all the data to be put it into the blob fields with the syntax I showed you. There are also other possibilities regarding the syntax, but this is an easy way to migrate such an application.
I have one question.
Yeah.
What domains? Domains with character sets.
In general, the domain overrides the default character set. So when you convert domains, I recommend when you have domains, for example, the domains is extracted with the character set name inside. And from my perspective, the easiest way is to to go into the $start file, not with this tool. Go to the $start file and simply do a search and replace here.
I've seen one option in your eBay Expert that was decode domains.
It is a comment afterwards. It's simply saying if you have a domain used somewhere in the code, for example, a table is based on a domain, it simply adds a comment that is a varchar 20, whatever. It's simply for commenting to understand what the domain itself here is doing. The same can be done, for example, if you want to switch a database from one owner to another. So the only thing that you need to do is currently change the username in the $start file to any other username who is able to log into your database server. This can be automatically done. Can be automatically replace the new owner. And you can, for example, use some tricks like creating a role named SYSDBA to avoid that anyone with SYSDBA rights come onto the database. Yeah, Frank?
Yeah, one question is for the text files that you can use when you dump the data. What purpose has the data?
Interesting question. Don't know at the moment.
I was just wondering, why do you go this way with the text files? You just showed that you can dump data from one database into this square bracket syntax.
Not only on this way, but also, for example, on a different way.
It would be easier to just dump the data directly.
The idea behind the text files is sometimes that you have inside the text files the possibility to rename, for example, objects. This is sometimes not a bad idea because especially when you're, for example, doing a conversion of an interbase database, this is another session today, you have the possibility to have object names longer than 32 or 31 bytes. And this must be replaced by a shorter string. And you can globally doing the search and replace. Another way to make this operation much faster, not faster, but I show you first a way how to do it in a similar way. The idea behind the $start file is creating a database with all objects but with no constraints. No primary key, no foreign key, no trigger, no constraint definitions, no unique definitions, and so on. After that, you can put all the data inside the database. And after that, you use the $finish, which create all the indices, primary keys, foreign keys, and so on. So while you are in the phase after $start and before $finish, you can do whatever you want with your database. You can, for example, also delete some records to simply remove one of the tables here. It's no problem. You can say, for example, run me all. Oh, run me all. Okay, I want to have the data only from test and test 1, test 3, but not from test 2. It's easy. You have another possibility already if you want, for example, having extract metadata to be automated. Just one more short demonstration here. DB4, for example. I check extract all, and I can, for example, add here a where condition. For example, where ID smaller 5 or so. Whatever you want to have can be added here for this table, and for each individual table you can have individual where operations. So you can, for example, create a IBE block which does the same operation here. Here are the where clauses. And you will have the possibility to use this script to create, for example, a production database from your development database. In general, I often see data inside a production database where you directly see that is data from the development database. For example, the AVAP database, AVERP, that I showed you already, had sometimes, for example, a lot of information inside the database, which belonged in the past already to for example, user privileges and so on. And in that way, you can, for example, create a script that creates a defined extract of all your data. Another way would be simply the database table data comparer. Table data comparer can be used to compare simply the data from both databases. And he finds some differences. This might have to do with that he internally you did not found the column. So I perhaps first have to compare the metadata, database comparer. But this is only one thing how you can do it. I would not do it in this way, especially not for larger databases. Okay, we're doing some updates here on character sets and so on. Perhaps Blob will hate me for this, that we are updating $RDB fields, $RDB relation fields directly. But this is one of the ways where we can, for example, set the null flag from nullable to not nullable and so on. But this is not the thing I wanted to show you. A way how you can, for example, put larger amounts of data from one database to another. Could be, for example, a way to create a table test underscore ext external file dtmp d5 no test id char and txt char 20, and the external file mechanism allows you to insert into test underscore ext select star from test. Test has entered into text ext. This is text ext has the following thing, and here we have the blob column inside. I remove the blob column, and now the remaining part of the script should run. And now we have only the right thing. Creating a external file was allowed by default in the past, and nowadays it's no longer allowed by default, and it's a good thing to not allow this anywhere on the data. You simply have to change some parameters in the Firebird config file. But the thing is, when you're using the same create table for an external file on both databases, you can use on the first database the insert into external file. On the second database, you can use the insert into internal file select star from external file. It is extremely fast.
Then I cannot take blob fields in this way.
Exactly. Blobs should be handled in a different way. We have for a customer almost ready to be used IBE block script that simply does the same job almost automatically. For example, it simply goes to the RDB relation table, RDB fields table, RDB relation fields table, look for all columns that are not blobs, and create from all this data external files to copy them from one database to another. And the blob data is copied with individual commands. So, for example, all tables which have blob columns are simply copied after they are created already as a record based on the external table. Typically, a blob column will not have any foreign key or whatever, so it is not a problem if I already have the blob column when I start the work with the next database. And if the data is already there, it is really a fast way. I found out that it is possible to have a external file access. You can read and write up to 100,000 records per second. And you will never have the same speed in any other environment, whatever you try to copy between two databases. And this number of records depends definitely on your hardware. We have tested this, not yet ready to be published, but it will be definitely one of the ways to have a extremely fast copy of your database in a separate, in a new database. Okay. Any questions? Yeah. Yes. You have here a character set, you have here a character set. And if you have, for example, here a UTF8 database, but a character set ISO, you can take any data from ISO character set to another database, which is ISO character set, and the Firebird server itself converts it to UTF8.
I could make a script that has all this insert into select from our database for every table in the database. And just run that once. I guess that would be faster, wouldn't it?
Not really, because physically we're doing something like creating a record in one table, creating a data set, a T-table component, or in that case a T-query component in one database, getting all the results, and doing execute statements for each record on the second database. So it will need definitely some time. One of the advantages is, despite of this, the possibility that you start, for example, the copy of the created result scripts simultaneously. So nobody will have a problem if you start 3 individual batches for each of these files at the same time, because there is no primary key, no foreign key that can be violated in that moment.
It seems faster, but it's slower.
Okay, I never tried this exactly.
Every batch copying the data.
Yeah.
In small tables, you see, in fact, oh, it's very fast now, but at the end, if you count everything up, it's slower.
Was it a multi-CPU machine?
Classic.
Yeah.
Same hardware.
Yeah, it might be not an improvement of speed in that moment. I do not know. Perhaps it's only an improvement when you are using with separate computers based on that. Don't know.
Then it's faster.
It might be faster, but it itself still needs some resources of the computer, for sure.
I have one question also regarding the separate database you used in the insert and the square brackets.
Yeah.
Can you use the square brackets within the select so that you can somehow join?
No. Only, for example, only insert or update is possible, but you cannot join from different databases. We, for example, have the possibility, like the IB block language that we have inside IB Expert, that you can use to join data from different databases, which is not a big problem. We have some examples. Joining tables, for example. And we have here, for example, a testing script. We are creating this is IBE block. IBE block is something similar like in Firebird block, but the 3 columns in front, the 3 characters in front of it have some major improvements. For example, a create database, for example, cannot be done from an execute block, as far as I remember, because the execute block must always run in a context of a database. So it cannot itself create a new database. Here we have, for example, we create two databases from the script, and we create a database connection, one database connection two. This is a possible scripting language available in all IBExpert editors. It's not a Firebird feature. Not yet. Perhaps in the future, similar. And we can simply switch from one database to another. We simply say here in the script, okay, use database 1. I take a statement, whatever it is, and I execute a statement. Table is created, for example. I use the default database, which is current database, which is opened. I use DB1 again. I switch back to DB2, execute statement. I do a commit. I insert into a company some data. And here I can, for example, execute statement from DB1, switch some, and take some columns from this table employee. And inside this loop, I can switch to database 2 and get some data from another database. So this is a possibility, for example, if you often want to merge data. If you do it, I have to look at the path. This will definitely not work here. I have to switch, change the database name and so on. So it requires for sure some changes here in the code to make this work. But it will be shown inside a result set and can be used, for example, also for other statements. Yeah.
In the database registration info, there's an option do not convert from or to UTF.
Yeah. This one. This is only active when I have a UTF8 database disconnected. Okay, so I have to look at the source code what it does. I think in such a case always press F1 and hopefully the internet connection is ready, and it should show information about that. If not, simply send an email to Debbie Miles or info@ibexpert.com or documentation@ibexpert.com, and we will add this. And here we have do not perform conversion new to IBExpert, whatever. When working with the database using UTF-8 character set, IBExpert performs automatically conversion of UTF-8 to Windows Unicode. Okay, and backwards, and so on and so on. So we have already documented it. So I recommend using F1, and you know what it is. Okay. Now we have, I would say thanks to all of you. We have now time for the lunch break. So this will be in the restaurant, just right upstairs. And we will have time until 2 o'clock in the afternoon for about 1.5 hours. And after that, I tried to show you which sessions will start. I think here in this room there will be the session from Frank, recursive data structures. And in the second room, Jiri. Exactly, Jiri Shinkura with the .NET features. So you can decide the second room is behind that door. You can directly go into the second room from outside. It's also a large sign, room 2, based on that. Okay, thank you very much.